We are assembled in loving memory of Bob Dickman. What an amazing man. Full stop. So you should be able to anticipate. I'll be welcoming at the appropriate time Frank, Ted, Ed, Margie, Richard, Wendy, and Sig. In fact, it is as if this moment has already been captured. What we would hope to be able to offer one another is captured in what's called the Bob box. This is a box that Bob kept near, close at hand, and it captures everything that he would have had us say about him today.
Bob. Bob, you can do anything. Brains and brawn. Bob, you have it all. Bob, you rock. Everybody loves you, Bob. You sure are sexy, Bob.
And it plays on a loop.
Bob, you can do anything.
It is perhaps all that one would feel necessary to be said, even as in no way am I suggesting that Bob wouldn't have approved of you coming here to say good things about him and to celebrate him. It was, after all, and it is certainly this day, all about Bob. Bob's mere century on this earth was life-affirming and loving, colorful and comical and compassionate, sincere and true, and singularly capable of conveying confidence and childlike charm at the exact same moment. Bob Dickman was a man who was friend to all and an inspiration to all who knew him. Certainly Bob was a devoted husband and beloved father to his girls, first among equals, his dearest Jean, with whom he shared some 68 years, for which she is, I know, only grateful. The daughters Jody, Terry, and Kathy, of blessed memory, each of whom Bob loved so much. Bob enjoyed his women, his girls, your attentions, your affections, your admiration. It was always all about him, and we loved him for it. Here was a man whose strong sense of self and deep love for his family, the family from which he hailed, the family into which Bob was welcomed, and the family he and Jean created. This, coupled with Bob's warmth and wisdom, is what endeared him to so many friends and to his entire family as a benevolent patriarch of the Bain Dickman clan. And everyone wanted to be Dickman, because Bob was so darn much fun. From the moment I met him, and Jean, you and Bob were among the very first to extend yourselves to us in such an inclusive, loving, and genuine way. From the moment I met Bob, like I know is the case for so many of you, if you can remember back that far, it seems that Bob was always here. He was certainly seemingly always there at just the right moment, when you needed a laugh or your spirit a lift. With his witticisms, which many have referred to as Bob-isms, sayings that both defined and endeared him to friends of all generations and from across the spectrum of society. Bob made no distinction between people. He simply loved hosting a party, and his party traveled. It was as if we were all guests at his banquet. "What's on the agenda tonight?" he would inquire. And ever ready for a drink, his eyes sparkled with the joy of anticipating sharing the camaraderie, born over a bit of the good stuff, over ice or up, as one might prefer, so long as the conversation flowed. Bob loved a good drink, and raising a glass with him and to him was and will now be one of life's singular joys. And so yes, like so many represented here, from the moment I met Bob, I was taken with him, enchanted, drawn in, yet unlike most of you, I suspect, respect, I also imagined that I would one day be standing here. For though he was young at heart and in spirit, Bob was already well into his 80s when I first came to know him. So many of you had the blessing of knowing him over so many decades. And I knew that one day perhaps it would be my privilege to stand among those few who speak on all of our behalf about what this man invited each of us to be. The way in which, in some of the most significant ways, Bob was the personification of what a truly successful man is. That is, one who has all of life's best priorities in order and who truly fulfills the expectations we ought enjoy the time that we have with one another. That we ought contribute meaningfully to the world and the very real people around us. That we ought be focused at the very same time on ensuring that the world is a better place and our loved ones are in a better place for the love and laughter we share with them in the lifetime we know. And now this day has arrived. Too soon, and yet well beyond what we ever could have asked for or hoped or dreamed to share. 96 amazing life-filled years, every one of them. I know Bob wanted to live forever, or at least he held out hope that he would see triple digits. But I dare say he got at least 100 years worth of living into his 96, for he never forgot that which at 90, after jumping out of an airplane, he had tattooed onto his arm. That is the words memento vivere, remember to live, as if Bob Dickman needed any reminder. He lived with passion and pizzazz, with a magnanimity and a magnetism that drew people to him. Bob loved being out front, where Jean preferred being behind the scenes, and what a complimentary paired couple you were. Everyone always had so much fun in your company, yours and Bob's. I could go on, but fortunately there are others who are prepared to share their reminiscences with us. We have a video presentation as well, and we begin with Frank Carlo.
I spoke to Jean this week, and she asked if I could say a few words, and it was an absolute honor for me. I met Bob 40 years ago when I interviewed for the job at Hillsborough. And I find, as I thought back over 40 years, I can't, what do you say that's brief to talk about the life of Bob Dickman? And I can't say memories have been floating through my head ever since I found out that Bob passed. And you know, the thing that I really am astounded at is that the exhibit industry is a cottage industry with little businesses all over the country. And Bob, for years and years and years, outsold everybody in the United States. Absolutely everybody. If there was a Hall of Fame for exhibit salesmen, Bob would have been on the first ballot. And to do that, his real personality comes through because it's hard work. He had to work hard to do that and to keep that up year after year. But he never, ever lost what he had with family and friends, jumping out of airplanes, trying to play golf. And I ride a motorcycle, and I told him all about it. I even gave him a Harley t-shirt. But he told me motorcycle wasn't for him. And I explained to him I was an air traffic controller, and there's no reason on God's earth to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. But he did it anyway. And to me, life's a journey. But it's not so much the journey that's important. I think it's the people you meet along the way. And I honestly feel that I am truly, truly blessed to have met Bob, to work with him, to socialize with him, and with Gene and Jody, and it just, I hope now he's up there saying that he's having lunch with Skip, I think, and they're commiserating about the old times. And once again, I feel truly blessed to know a man like Bob. Ted.
Hi. So, I wrote this thing out. You can't talk about Uncle Bob without laughing. Just to let you know, I call Uncle Bob and Aunt Jean Uncle Bob and Aunt Jean. Because they are. I hold no claim or papers, and I'm not bona fide. I once asked Uncle Bob something about being a son. And he said, well, I would like you to be a son. I said, no, Uncle Bob, we already had this conversation. And you said it would cost me $199.99 to be your son. And I said, well, I didn't have that much. I had a little less. He said, okay, $59.95. I was telling him, of course, he never said that, but I was telling him that. And he said, oh, I left something on the table on that one. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I was Uncle Bob's caretaker. It was my Tuesdays with morning moment. Everyone should have one. If you don't worry, these things come to you. Uncle Bob meets my father in early high school, 80 or so years ago. They became best friends. They have the same name, Bob. They hang out, they stay best friends all their lives. They are each other's yin and yang. They are each other's best man at their weddings. When he's 16, Uncle Bob buys a 1930 Chevy. It had little rose faces on the inside columns between the front seat and the back seat. This is Uncle Bob's favorite thing about the car, other than it started. You could put roses in these little vases, he told me this many times. How romantic is that, I thought. He always also told me I had the car and Bobby had the girls. He would sit in the back seat making out and I would drive. I often questioned him as to why he just didn't go over and change the seating arrangement. But he never answered. And I think in some ways it was the same reason that he never put roses in those little vases. And for the same reason he didn't want the back seat and all that it stood for. I think he was just waiting for June. There were many things I wanted to know about my father. I told Uncle Bob this, and by doing so, there were many things that I found out about both of them. And when the war changed their lives, it was through Uncle Bob that I was also able to feel the trepidations of the goodbyes and the tentative bravado of young men going off to an adventure that held all the secrets. And so by this recounting, I think Uncle Bob had a chance to take the measure of his great love. The circle has run its course. Uncle Bob has always said how lucky he had been in his life. He was loved and been loved deeply by Jean, Carrie, Kathy, and Jody. And as for me, as for my Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with Bob, the end is certainly sweet. Uncle Bob would always ask me, where's Bobby? Dancing with the girls, he would ask before I could absolutely answer. And I kind of think that's where he is too. Just happy to sit on a chair, watching his old friend finish his dancing, smiling that big smile of his, and waiting for the chance to catch up.
Ed?
I wish to talk about Bob Dickman, my dear friend. Everyone should have a friend like Bob, and many of you do. He will be deeply missed. The classic one, and there were others, was his world of tennis. I knew Bob through tennis, that many of you know. As a leader, friends followed him. When the indoor tennis court, that's the one in East Liberty, closed, and there was no place really except out in Monroeville to play tennis, Bob moved right into action. He led others to act with the Pittsburgh parks and the political leaders. He assembled and led those responsible to get that done. What we now have is a bubble containing 5 tennis courts next to Ellis School. It truly met Pittsburgh's needs and others around the Pittsburgh area. Now, the bubble has no name. I always threatened to take a float pen and name it Bob's Bubble. Bob then went on to arrange with the city tennis matches for players over 80, which I failed. He also planned to have one over 90. And as I said, he always wanted to be a winner. And of course, with that arrangement, he and I would have let me address his profession. That being an exhibitionist and that being the idea of convention national companies. He did it all over the world, and I'm sure it was a great job. And there were a lot of people that worked with him, some of them are here. As I said at the beginning, we'll all miss our dear lifelong and serious friend. Just a thought. A song that Tony Bennett sang at his 90th birthday. How do you keep the music playing? Beautiful song. And when I think of Bob and his memory, we'll all keep his music playing. Thank you.
Margie Schaffel.
I am Margie Schaffel, and I'm here to offer a remembrance of my Uncle Bob, a man whose positivity, loving warmth and generosity, and go mission attitude will be remembered by all who knew him. This remembrance is based on conversations that I've had with my mother Marian and my sister Jane as we've gone through these last days. We moved to the corner of Hastings and Denison on November 30th, 1955, the day after Jane's first birthday. I was 4. Ada Amster, our next door neighbor, told my mom that there was a family down the street where there were 2 daughters and one on the way, although I guess they didn't really know there were a girl or a boy then, but a daughter on the way. We were 5 girls of staggered ages. We became a clan. Some Saturdays we would go to GRS&W, and we loved to go into the drafting drawers and get colored pencils so that we could draw. Uncle Bob got a few extra hours to do his work, but also encouraged us in his creativity, in our creativity. Even boring events were fun and exciting, like stuffing envelopes for Uncle Bob's annual holiday cards. These cards, and I'm sure many of you remember them, were so creative, with Uncle Bob bigger than life, with a head 3 times the size of his body. The idea of Uncle Bob as a host and Uncle Bob's generosity came to light more for me in the later years, in the Nemacolin years, 30-some years back and forward till now. At that point, Uncle Bob, I think, was either retired or partially retired, handing over some of his legacy to Jody at what was at that point Dosbar. The thing that I remember the most about Uncle Bob is the pride he took in all the new activities, because at Nemacolin, every year, there were new things. And not only did he try them himself, but he got as much joy or more joy out of introducing all of us to those activities, whether it was the Hummer, or the shooting range, or the zip line, or the skiing. Whether we had any interest in those things or not, we all had such a great time. We enjoyed every minute of it, all of us. And then there were the kids. My kids absolutely adored him. They lit up all the time, any year, in his presence. Hannah, in particular, always did want to be a Dickman. It was only a few years ago that she got her official bracelet, and now acknowledges the Dickmanness in herself. When my dad died, Uncle Bob was in Israel working in the Israeli army, something that Eugene let him do for a couple of years before putting the kibosh on that. We have pictures of him planting the tree for my dad. Next, I don't know if I can get through this. No, next came the challenge. I just have to read it. Neither personality, talent in making things happen, or even money help with the humbling experience of being with Kathy through illness and death. Uncle Bob, Eugene, and all were changed forever. Everybody's heard about Uncle Bob that he wrote at age 90, so I won't retell the stories of the tattoos or the skydiving. In recent times, Uncle Bob aged with such grace, still always with a smile, even though he was depending more on Eugene to answer the question of what comes next. He aged like a man who had done what he wanted to do, given to others all that he had, and was at peace.
What's your age?
I have three sets of parents. Harry and Gladys Bain, who raised me, my birth parents, and I have Aunt Jean and Uncle Bob. B and G did not know they were going to be my parental figures, but that's how it turned out. My father taught me how to be a mensch, or at least how to try to be. He was dying of ALS, and I had helped take care of him back in 77 and 78. No matter how bad things got, he never uttered one woe against me. So I learned that in silence, there's much to be learned. When I moved in 1978 to become an artist in New York City, I stopped by all of my cousins' places, you all recall. And I was on my way to New York, and I was then going to visit Bob and Jean. Now, I only had met them like maybe twice before, maybe just a year before when my father was dying. And this time, I was wearing cowboy boots, muddy blue jeans, Western pearl snap Western shirt, open down to here, gold chain. Probably a little bit of mud on everything. And Bob asked me if I wanted to see his facility. And I agreed, though, like I was about as excited as seeing a facility as, seeing like, okay, great, I'm going to see a bunch of people put some stuff together, so I wasn't really thrilled. And we went, we did the whole tour, the whole hard hat tour, and I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed watching things happen. And he said, what are you going to do when you get to New York City? And I said, oh, man, I'm going to bum around a little bit, try to make some art friends, maybe do some artwork. His reply was, yeah, but what about the money? I said, I don't know, maybe get a part-time job at a bar or something. I'm really going to do art, not a living, man. And he laughed and said, you want a job? And I said, I don't think so. I really don't think so. With that, he picks up the phone and calls Marty Bell. Marty Bell was president of one of the biggest production houses in New York City. Bob was a client of Marty's, so Marty had to listen to Bob. And Bob said, Marty, I have a young man, very enthusiastic. In my office, on his way to New York City. Do you think you could find him a job? And I'm going, oh God, no. And Marty replied to him to the affirmative. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in the lobby of Comart Aniforms waiting for my interview, and there was a pamphlet. The pamphlet was called Marketing. And I opened it up. Marketing to me was walking around like this. Right? And so I read what I could of the thing, and I got this interview, and the guy said, "What are you really interested in?" And I said, "Marketing." Didn't have a clue what it was. 2 weeks later, I was working for Marty Bell, way down the food chain, the lowest paying job in the place, mounting 35 millimeter slides for $3 an hour. Long story short, not only did I build a career in the AV business because of Uncle Bob, but I also launched my career as an artist, which continues to this day, because by working in the AV industry, I got to choose my time off. And I could choose my time off to work at my studio. All thanks to one man, Uncle Bob. Of course, it didn't hurt that my Aunt Jean often took my side, even defending me when I brought her to the Palace, which was my studio on John Street in downtown New York. It was about the size of a good-sized bathroom and was filthy. That's it. Here I am, Richard Bain artist, Richard Bain writer, Richard Bain gardener. Richard Bain, my uncle's nephew. I hope in some small way he saw me as a son. I know that I always felt with a father's need. My father taught me how to be a mensch. My Uncle Bob taught me how to be a man. And most importantly, on how to work. I would be nothing without my Uncle Bob and my Aunt Jean.
Thank you. Wendy.
Uncle Bob was the rock, the glue, the North Star, the leader of the pack, and the Pied Piper of a deeply devoted tribe of extended family and lifelong friends who wildly adored him. He knew it, of course, but in return, he generously and joyfully cared for all of us, and he made it his mission to fill our lives with laughter and love. Everyone did want to be a Dickman, but I was the lucky one. I had two fathers, the two best fathers in the world, because Uncle Bob designated me the fourth Dickman daughter. And he did love his girls. My dad and Uncle Bob became friends in high school when my dad transferred from Shadyside Academy to Alderdice after his own father had died. And their amazing friendship lasted a lifetime. Daddy loved Uncle Bob as the brother he never had. In fact, when my dad had a stroke at 89, he was getting dressed to go play tennis with Uncle Bob and the over 80 gangs, Landerman and others, as they had been doing their whole lives. Aunt Jean and Uncle Bob got married at about the same time as my parents, I think. And they lived in the same apartment building. And then they all moved to row houses on the dead-end block of Denniston Avenue, where we lived for just a few years before we moved away. But we lived in houses right near each other on Denniston. And that's where the amazing, tight-knit, multi-generational family, by choice, was born more than 65 years ago. In all those years, I learned many lessons from my Uncle Bob. First, I saw one of the most amazing marriages I've ever known. I remember from my youngest days, Aunt Jean and Uncle Bob always laughing. And I was just always aware of how much fun they had together. And I think that was a model for me of what a marriage should be, which may explain why I'm still not married. I learned the meaning of abiding friendship. Uncle Bob, with his facilitator and enabler, Aunt Jean, brought everyone together and held us close. The more, the merrier.
He was there for the fun, but he was also there when times were troubling. Through some of the saddest days when my mom was very ill, he would show up every day at the hospital with bagels and hugs. He taught us that family is much more than those you are related to by blood or by marriage. And as you've heard, his generosity extended beyond our boisterous gang. He and my dad would drive Meals on Wheels, even in the winter time when they were in their 80s. And I would say, aren't these people even younger than you are? But I think my dad loved it because he got to spend time with Uncle Bob. And I think what I thank Bob for more than anything is I loved seeing him with my dad. I think that was the happiest my dad was, the loudest he laughed, and the most comfortable he ever was. I also learned an important lesson in recent years when our vibrant, colorful, hilarious, active, adorable, mischievous, charismatic Uncle Bob was slowing down. We had a wonderful conversation one afternoon on the porch at Nemacolin. He knew what was happening to him, and I asked if that scared him. And he said no, he was perfectly happy. He had worked hard and had everything organized and everything he needed, and now everyone he loved was doing a wonderful job taking care of him. And it really was all about that. So, what a life, what a lesson, what a life well lived. We were all so lucky to have been part of Bob's world, and I loved him dearly.
As we say goodbye to this especially beloved man, we extend our support to one another, all those who remember, who knew, and loved him. Those who knew Bob Dickman were blessed. So many memories, so many emotions, so much rushes to mind as we confront the loss of one who was so full of life. May our sense of consolation be found in the companionship of those who sit beside us now. May comfort be discovered in the good intentions of all with whom we share our many memories, but we would hope to receive from one another, and we be prepared to share. In this way shall we ensure that Bob Dickman's memory will ever be treasured among us as a blessing. We shall find to make many moments to reflect on Bob's life and on all he shared with us, and that which he invited each of us to become. Together through a moment of shared silent reflection, let us dedicate this moment to his memory. Each in his own words and each in her own way. Each with our own treasured remembrances of times we are privileged to know, but shall now be secured and secreted in our hearts forever. O source of life and peace, bless, we pray, all the memories we cherish. On this day when our grief is greatest, and in the days to come as we slowly begin to return to the normal patterns of our lives, may the sorrows we know be softened, and may the pain of our bereavement grow more gentle. Indeed, may our grief and our pain be transformed into gratitude and tenderness. And may peace descend upon all who mourn today, and may comfort come to all who are bereaved. We say together, Amen. Following our concluding with the words and rhythms of Kaddish, all are invited to join together for a reception in the courtyard and in the commons area, a celebration of Bob Dickman's life. If you are able, won't you please rise? Dedicate this recitation of Kaddish to Bob's memory and to the memory of all those whose memories give meaning to our lives, whose memories help animate our days, and allow us to be who we are in full just now. Yitzchak Yitzchak Shnei Rama, V'yalman Yivrach Yerutei, V'yamid Mol Yitei, V'chayei Kon V'yomei Kon, V'chayei Kol Yisrael, V'agalal Yizman Kareem V'Ibru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba V'Barach V'Olam Almei Almaya, Yibarach, Yishabach, Yizbahar, Yiraman, Yiznaseh, Yitadar, Yitzaleh, Yitalal, Shnei, Yusha, Le'ela, Mikobarakata, Mashirata, Dushbakata, Nehemata, Amiran, Milma, V'Hibru, Amen. Yehi Shalom, Rabba, Mishmaya, V'chaim Aleinu, V'Kol Yisrael, V'Hibru, Amen. Osei Shalom, V'Ramah, Uya Aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael, V'Hibru, Amen. In the source of peace, grant peace to all the mourning, comfort speedily all the bereaved, and we say what's good. Amen. God never be among us forever, as a blessing. Please, you can exit the door to my right or my left, and we'll meet back in the commons courtyard there. There are two videos. The first is the skydiving video. And the second is a tribute to Bob. Then we'll conclude together and we'll proceed to the game.
Got all that? I'm going to get you an altimeter here.
An altimeter.
So, Bob, what are you going to do today?
Pray.
Pray.
Now I'm going to skydive with my good friend, my new friend, Jim Drummond. Jim Drummond.
Is that why you're wearing this fun outfit?
That's why I'm wearing this funny suit.
And what are you doing this for? Anything good?
I'm doing it because if President Bush can do it, I can.
I agree. We're all young at heart, right?
That's right.
We're only as old as we feel.
I'm older than Bush, so I want more respect.
And you deserve it.
Thank you.
Well, awesome. Well, we'll see you up in the air.
All right. Thank you.
Let me put this on your left. I'll come down and loosen up the chest strap and the belly band, and then we're under parachute. Bob, we're halfway up. We're a mile above the ground. I love it. Yeah? Get nervous? Not a bit. All right, you ready to do it? Absolutely. All righty. I'm with you, baby. We'll see you up at the top. Another mile. Good deal. All right. What'd you think, Bob? There's the camera.
That's great. I love it.
Are you all right?
Sort of all right.
All right. George Bush got nothing on you, huh?
Oh, that was great.
You all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. You ready to get up?
Yep.
Need help?
Yep, I do. Gotcha, baby.
There you are, back on Earth. Congratulations.
You're my man.
There you go. You're a skydiver now. Here they come.
What do I do now?
Just wait till everybody's gonna want to get your picture here, so you might as well just wait.
How's your,
Whether you know it or not, you're a celebrity.
you okay?
No problem.
Good. You did that very well. Good
You
job,
can go up
Jim.
to him.
He did real good. He did everything he's supposed to.
Jimmy, get in there and get your
You can walk up to him.
Huh?
You can go up to him.
Jim, you're my man. Get
Give
in
you
here.
a big kiss.
I'll bet he.
Let me tell you what she told me, though. she said if I hurt myself, she was not going to take care of me.